What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, it seems like it's time for me to shake things up a little bit, stir up the pot. As you guys know, I don't really have a filter. I'm gonna speak my mind, despite if it's popular opinion or not, and I just tell it like it is. And at the end of the day, when when I have a stance on boxing, it's usually supported by fact. I'm not saying I'm always right. However, I can intelligently argue why I feel the way I feel. For example, I feel Floyd Mayweather, and I've always said this, Floyd Mayweather beats Manny Pacquiao. And I can tell you precisely what leads me to believe that if those two were to fight, Floyd Mayweather would beat Pacquiao. Some of you guys are surface area boxing fans, and you say things that are inconsistent. You say things and don't support it with fact, and you just kind of run with it. So, in this video, what I want to talk about is Nonito Donaire. Um, he was recently he received the Fighter of the Year honors, and I've heard a lot of flack from boxing fans or quote unquote boxing fans. A lot of people think that he doesn't deserve to be named Fighter of the Year, and frankly, me personally, I'm okay with Nonito Donaire being named Fighter of the Year, and I'm gonna explain to you why. If you guys have any questions or comments after the video, let me know, and let me get into the video and break it down why I'm okay with Nonito Donaire being named Fighter of the Year. I feel Nonito Donaire is he's a talented fighter. He hits hard. Um, he kind of takes on different styles. I feel like a lot of people don't like Nonito Donaire for various reasons. Maybe they're an Abner Mars fan or they like Rigo. Um, I know some of those fans don't like Nonito, but he's a good fighter. And for this year, 2012, he's fought four times, four different styles, four different opponents. And despite what anybody says, he was victorious in all four of those fights. And in my opinion, there's no question that he was victorious. I mean, there's no sketchy decisions like Pacquiao versus Marquez 3, where it's controversial. He clearly won those fights. Certain fights he looked better than others, but if you really break it down, there's a reason why he looked better in certain fights than other fights. So let's get right into it. All right, so if you look at Nonito versus Wilfredo Vasquez Jr., first of all, some of you supposed boxing fans don't even realize that Wilfredo Vasquez Sr. is a famous boxer himself, and he built quite a name in the sport. Some of you guys may not know him. He's obviously not as famous as a you know what I mean, Eric Morales or something, but he was a popular figure in the sport, and this is his son that fought Nonito Donaire. In that fight, at the very end of the fight, Nonito takes off his gloves, and you can see his wraps are soaked and drenched with blood. He obviously hurt his hand. I mean, that's not normal for your hand to be leaking and bloody, and he took it off so you can see it. So, obviously, if he didn't look spectacular in your opinion, he is fighting with a clearly damaged hand. Other than that, again, Wilfredo Vasquez is coming from a boxing family. His record was something like 21 wins, 18 knockouts, and he had like one loss at the time. And I think that loss was to Jorge Arce, who Nonito later fought. So he had a pretty solid record. Again, he comes from a boxing family, and Nonito was fighting with the injured hand. So that's one fight. Jeffrey Matabula. Some people said Nonito didn't look great against Jeffrey Matabula, but you have to also factor in the the fact that Jeffrey Matabula was a world champion as well, and he stood about 6 feet tall versus Nonito Donaire, who's about like 5'6", 5'7", I believe. So that's that's a tall order for anyone to overcome. I mean, if you look at the Miguel Cotto versus Austin Trout was clearly taller than him, and Miguel Cotto had trouble getting on the inside with Austin Trout. I mean, size does make a difference. I'm not saying that there's the taller fighter always is going to win, but if they have a pretty solid defense and long arms and that significant of a reach advantage, it can pose problems. But at the end of the day, even with those problems, Nonito still clearly won the fight. He scored a knockdown, and he broke Jeffrey Matabula's jaw in 3 places. So, I mean, that's pretty significant. And then you look at Nonito Donaire. He fought the Japanese champion, who has a he's known for his defense. Um, Toshiaka Nishioka, he's known for a defense. He had a great record, a great career. You guys don't know about him because he's bigger in Japan and he didn't have any HBO fights or anything like that. So a lot of people are quick to discount him. But if you watch the guy's old fights and look at his resume, it's pretty impressive. He is a world champion. He is somebody who is rated. Um, but again, since he doesn't have a name in the states, a lot of people aren't going to give him credit. And then most recently, he fought Jorge Arce. And look at Jorge Arce's resume. And people are mad that he got Fighter of the Year. I just don't understand it. I'm hearing all kinds of stuff like Nonito fought has-beens and over-the-hill people. First of all, Nonito Donaire is 30 years old. And Jorge Arce and Jeffrey Matabula are 33, so they're 3 years older than him. Wilfredo Vasquez Jr. is 28 years old. So, I mean, these people aren't over the hill. Nishioka he might be the oldest, I think. He's like maybe 35, something like that. Um, but either way, it's not like he's fighting somebody 10 years older than him or something. And then the funny thing is, some of you guys, like, again, if Nonito didn't get it, who would you give Fighter of the Year honors to? And let's take a look at it. Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner, he's fought probably one less fight than Nonito. Nonito fought 4 times and won 4 times. Adrian Broner fought 3 times. And don't get me wrong, I feel Adrian Broner is the future of boxing. His first fight was against his first fight was against, what's his name? Escobedo. Or not Escobedo. Eloy Perez, I'm sorry. His first fight was against Eloy Perez, who later tested positive for having cocaine in his system. So, I mean, just that, not to take anything away from Broner's dominance in that fight, but, I mean, how hard was as Eloy Perez training if he's still partying and using coke, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't really even take that cat seriously. Moving on. Vicente Escobedo. Broner outweighed him and tipped the scales and didn't even try to lose the weight. So you can't. I clearly think Broner has too much skill for Escobedo. He would have won that fight either way, but just the fact that he didn't even attempt to make weight, that's one, unprofessional, and then 2, you don't know what if it would have ended in the same fashion at the same exact point in time. That it actually did. I think it ended in round 5 in a TKO stoppage. But at the same time, like, that's a lot going into a fight, knowing someone's outweighing you, and then there was a lot of controversy where they didn't know if the fight was still on, and I don't know. That's pretty big for a fight. So we don't know how that fight would have played out if it would have played out the exact same. Again, I think Broner still would have beat him, but it's still up in the air just because we'll never know because it didn't go that route. So we don't know if it would have ended in the exact same fashion if they weighed the same. So I don't see how you can even really give Broner Fighter of the Year just with that under his pedigree for this year. And then most recently, Antonio DeMarco, he looked spectacular, very impressive performance. So that's Adrian Broner. Then you look at Bam Bam Rios, Brandon Rios. He fought Richard Abril, and I feel Richard Abril should have won that fight. Went to decision. He was too slick, and he was making Rios look bad. And I clearly think he should have won that fight. He got a gift decision, Brandon Rios, that is, so he didn't. But that's a highly controversial fight. And then he came back and looked great against Mike Alvarado. And he took some punishment in that fight. Luckily, he has a chin, and he was able to weather the storm and then win that particular fight. It was a great fight, but it was pretty back and forth. So, I mean, how could you give Brandon Rios Fighter of the Year with those 2 fights? You know what I mean? Who else is there? Canelo Alvarez. Look at Canelo. Canelo fought, especially if people are saying Donaire's fighting old fighters, Canelo fought Shane Mosley at a higher weight at 154. And his last 2 fights weren't at 154. They were at 147, I believe, against Pacquiao and Mayweather. So Mosley had to go up in weight, and he was months away from being 41 years old. and he had lost 2 fights in a row. You know what I'm saying? So yes, Canelo looked great in that fight. He looked good. He actually did better than I thought he would do in that particular fight. But at the same time, he's going against someone who lost 2 times in a row, had a draw with Mora, and didn't look great in that particular fight. I don't know. Shane Mosley looks like he's been on the decline for quite some time, since Margarito, put it that way. And then Canelo faced a blown up 140 pounder in the means of Josecito Lopez. So how could you call Canelo fight of the year? And then you look at Floyd Mayweather. He fought one time. He fought Miguel Cotto, which was a great performance. It was a great fight, but that's only one fight. And then he went into jail, and we haven't seen him back in the ring. Pacquiao. Pacquiao lost his last 2 fights. He got knocked out viciously by Marquez in the fourth fight. And then before that, he fought Timothy Bradley, and he lost in a controversial decision. So how can Pacquiao be fighter of the year? Um, and then same thing with Cotto. Cotto lost to Mayweather convincingly, and then he lost to Austin Trout convincingly. So how's Miguel Cotto fighter of the year? So again, all you boxing fans who have a problem with the fact that Nonito Donaire got ranked fighter of the year, what does fighter of the year mean to you? Who are you expecting to be in that position? Who deserves that position more than Nonito Donaire? If that's my question to you. And I guess you could say the Klitschko's, but at the same time, the heavyweight division is not really stacked. There's no one that is looking like they can beat the Klitschko's as of right now. We have no American. The American person we were riding with just lost his last fight and is doing a rematch, and that's Seth Mitchell. So, like I said, just leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. Who deserves Fighter of the Year candidate and why? And as always, make sure you guys subscribe, comment, and or hate on the video. That's it. Until next video, it's Ego.